This is an RNZ podcast.
They say it takes a village to raise a child. I'm Kathryn Ryan, and here we draw on my conversations with experts on 9 to Noon to help you navigate family life. Sleep is difficult for many people lots of the time, but it can be even greater challenge in pregnancy. Our guests have written a book, Sleeping Better in Pregnancy, A Guide to Sleep Health for New Zealand Women, which is the latest research from Massey University's internationally renowned Sleep-Wake Research Centre. It's a trimester-by-trimester guide to managing expectations about sleep and a toolkit for getting a good night's rest. Associate Professor at the Sleep-Wake Research Centre is Leigh, who's co-authored the book. Good morning, Leigh.
Morena, Kathryn.
Along with PhD student Clare Ladyman, who first came up with the idea for the book. Morning, Clare.
Hi, Kathryn.
I'll get you both just to pop in as you choose as we work through this. Leigh, I might start with you, though, on what is the larger program of work that you've been doing leading up to this particular initiative?
Yeah, this work's been going on now for coming up nearly a decade, and what we're really interested in is better understanding sleep right across the perinatal time frame, understanding what's normal, and then when does it shift into times when we'd be more concerned, and better understanding what some of the health outcomes might be for women and children. Some of the other work that we've been doing has been looking at, for example, sleep quality in pregnancy and showing that there's a relationship with the risk of needing an emergency caesarean section. It increases the likelihood twofold. And symptoms of a respiratory sleep disorder known as sleep apnea also increase the likelihood of a woman needing an emergency caesarean section. And so Claire's work fits into that broader framework, where she's particularly interested in sleep and its relationship to mental health. We know that in non-pregnant populations, the two are really tightly linked. People who experience problems with sleep are more likely to develop mental health issues. And we also know that people who have mental health problems are very likely to have problems with their sleep as well. And so this creates a bit of a vicious cycle with the two going round in circles. And we know that in pregnancy, when we get to that time frame, sleep does change for many women, and we also know it's a time when women can experience more challenges with their mental health. So this book was really part of Claire's fantastic work, where we were trying to give women really good, factual, simple, accurate information about what to expect when they are pregnant.
Leigh, just before I come to Clare, what are the factors in play? Obviously, physically, there is so much going on in the body, and there are physical discomforts, and there are also just the physical discomforts when you're trying to sleep. We'll talk more about some of the practical advice on that in a moment. But what else is happening, say, to the circadian rhythm? What else is happening in the body that makes it even more difficult than usual?
Yeah, I think, science in this area is actually really quite new, and it's a really exciting area to be working in right now. And so, as you mentioned, there are physiological things that are going on. There are massive changes in the hormones that women are producing to support the pregnancy, and they have implications for their sleep. And then there is, yes, the growing baby that creates discomfort, particularly to the end of the second and then the third trimester. I mean, there's some really new and interesting work that's showing that the timing of our circadian clock actually is also altered with the onset of pregnancy. And that may be linked for some women to some of the health outcomes that occur for a small proportion of our population in pregnancy. But it's a really new and interesting area. And I think just what we're trying to do is help women understand and normalise some of the things that are happening to their bodies, particularly around their sleep, at this really important time in their lives.
Clare, can you tell us more about the work you were doing that prompted the idea of a book? What were you hearing from expectant women? It's an old-fashioned phrase, isn't it, from pregnant women?
Yeah, so I guess
what prompted the study in the first place is really the lack of information out there. There's so much sort of focus on women after they've had the baby, and talking about sleep and strategies for sleep after the baby arrives. But really, in pregnancy, there's not a huge amount for women to find. So I think what Leigh was saying is giving them the most up-to-date information we can, and seeing if just having that information can help normalise and create sort of realistic expectations about what sort of sleep that they could achieve in pregnancy.
We've spoken to you previously, actually, about women who had experienced depression, and remind us of that study.
Yeah, so about 2017 we did this study, and so we looked at 15 women who had previously had depression before, and we know that they're at a much higher risk of experiencing depression again in pregnancy if they've had that history. It was their first pregnancy, and we started out with them really early in their pregnancy, so right back in their first trimester, and we followed them right through each trimester and spent time with them in each trimester explaining how sleep works and what sleep changes they could expect in pregnancy, and then giving them some individual strategies around what they could do to improve their sleep. And we did that, on a one-on-one, face-to-face basis. So we made it really personalised. So that was the study that we found, and we had some really amazing results. So women that like I said, that have experienced depression before had a much higher chance of experiencing it again. And although we can't sort of make definitive conclusions about the study, all of those women were able to get to the end of the third trimester not experiencing depressive symptoms. So whether they were able to, and we did find some really good improvements to their sleep, but there may have been some other things about knowing about their sleep gave them some reassurance. We had some really good results from the study. So I think the possibility of sleep education really helping women in this life stage is really promising.
Well, let's talk about it. You organise it trimester by trimester, but one of the points you make is that you want to get started early to catch and try and sort a sleep pattern early, if there's any such thing.
Yeah.
And so could we sort of do it chronologically first and just give us an overview of what might be most pertinent in each trimester, and then we'll come and zero in a bit more.
Absolutely. I think that's really important, because I think, a lot of women maybe think that their sleep will change maybe in the third trimester because of those physiological just part of being pregnancy, having a larger belly because, their baby's growing and feeling the baby move is going to alter their sleep. But we find that right back in the beginning, that the massive changes to hormones, which Leigh was talking about, even like progesterone, the enormous surge that they have in that first trimester. And progesterone is a soporific hormone, so it's a sleepy hormone. So if you imagine, a huge surge of those hormones in your body, it's only natural that makes you feel sleepy and tired. And the same with estrogen. There's a lot of researchers that think that estrogen is based or is linked to morning sickness, and that makes women feel incredibly fatigued and tired. So, you put those two things together at the beginning of pregnancy, and you can understand why, sleep might change, that they might just feel, that overwhelming sense of tiredness. Going to the toilet, 3-4 times a night is really common in that first sort of period of pregnancy. So, all of those things in that early stage. And I think that's why it's important to catch it early. If women can know that those sorts of things are happening and it's normal, then it's not so much that they have to worry about it. It's, they can go, okay, this is okay. This is just a natural part of pregnancy.
Accepting
And
that
I
is a
think
big thing, isn't it, with any sleep problem?
yeah,
Accepting.
yeah.
So in that first
Yeah,
trimester, you talk
absolutely.
about the elements of sleep, which is sleep quantity, how much sleep quality, which is how restorative it is, and sleep timing. And in the first trimester, what's some of the broad advice you can give women to make sure they're getting enough of each of these? Like, what practically can you attempt anyway?
Yeah, so I think a lot of the stuff that we talk about in the centre more broadly as well is about sleep opportunities. So, we talk about, our nighttime sleep being the prime time when our body is sort of programmed for sleep. But sometimes in pregnancy, if you're having disruptive periods during that time, looking for other sleep opportunities. So, is there an opportunity to have a daytime nap? Or is there maybe not going to bed too early, because that can be sometimes counterintuitive as well, but is there times that you can spend longer periods in bed to have that longer duration of sleep? And quality as well, just simple things like, keeping up your fluid intake during the day, but maybe not having too much to drink in that hour or two before bedtime, or just looking for different strategies in making your bed more comfortable. Because we know that light is really affects your sleep. So things like keeping the lighting down in the evening periods. You're only using little night lights when you need to get up to go to the toilet, so that your body isn't experiencing a big surge in light in the middle of the night, which can sometimes make it more difficult to go back to sleep. Just things like that. There's lots of, and that's what we tried to do in the book, using lots and lots of different strategies so that so women can choose their own ideas that work for them.
Physical exercise, again, as pregnancy advances, it's always got to be appropriate, obviously, but it helps, as it does with anyone. And you don't necessarily feel like it, but it does help with trying to improve sleep patterns.
So, sorry, I missed that one.
Physical exercise. Physical exercise.
Yes, physical exercise. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and things like very gentle exercises like yoga, walking, Pilates, any kind of water-based exercise can be really, really helpful. And exercise has been known to be really helpful for any mental health issues as well. So I guess it's got a bit of a double effect there, that it really can help women throughout pregnancy.
Can we talk about sleeping positions in the different trimesters? Because there's a lot going on here. There's the sleep positions that might be most comfortable, but also, as Leigh alluded to earlier, there is advice for other reasons on certain sleep positions at certain stages of pregnancy. Which of you, or either of you, I don't mind, can we talk about advice on how to use pillows, but also sleep position?
So there was a fairly recent study put out by the University of Auckland that looked at a meta-analysis on sleep position, and they did find that although it's a fairly new area of study looking at sleep position and its relationship to stillbirth, they did find that sleeping on women's side does decrease the chances of having a stillbirth.
Particularly in the third trimester, I think, wasn't it? Particularly in the third trimester.
28, from about 28 weeks is the recommendation. So late in that second trimester. What we do say in the book as well, that sometimes if you're not used to sleeping on your side, that sometimes using that first trimester is actually a really good training opportunity to start practicing sleeping on your side. But I think the really important part about it is if women wake up on their backs, not to panic. It's really natural to move during sleep. And what the study from Auckland found is it's the going to sleep position is on your side is most important. So that's the position that you'll spend most of your time asleep in, is your going to sleep position. So if you wake up on your back, it's not you don't necessarily need to panic. It's you just need to roll back onto your side and head back to sleep if you can. And you can do things like you were talking about with cushions and pillows, is just maybe having a pillow behind your back so that you're not able to move to flip onto your back while you're sleeping. And in that last trimester as well, if you do find yourself lying on your back, you probably haven't been there for a huge amount of time, because your body is not going to be comfortable in that position. So, that's sort of the recommendations to date on those.
Things like reflux, unfortunately, can accompany pregnancy as well. You also deal with breathing and changes to breathing. Could you elaborate a little bit more?
Yeah, so there's certainly hormones that get produced in pregnancy, things like relaxin, which obviously helps the uterus expand for the growing baby, but it also does make ligaments and tendons and things like that a little bit more loose, and that can have an effect on your breathing muscles as well. So the throat muscles, which is what they think is the cause of an increase in snoring in pregnancy. So yes, we do find that there has been, and Leigh has done some really good studies on increase in snoring. So it might be better to maybe
Leigh,
talk to her about that one.
The work that I mentioned earlier, so we've been really interested in understanding what some of those symptoms of respiratory sleep disturbances, so the snoring, and some women sometimes report that they might have, or their partner reports that they have breathing pauses during sleep. And so we've shown that, that can increase the likelihood of you having an emergency caesarean section. I think the important thing to remember is that if you're worried about those sorts of things, to have a chat with your midwife or lead maternity carer. And for some women, there might be simple things that they can do, such as sleeping with pillows to slightly raise their head will improve things like reflux and might help with breathing in sleep. But if you are concerned, do have a chat to your lead maternity carer. Sometimes these things they can be quite temporary during pregnancy, and things can change quite rapidly. And I think that the book talks about that and tries to help you understand that those changes are a normal part of this process, and the times when you should reach out and talk to somebody else about what's going on, and they can perhaps provide you with some more advice.
Restless leg syndrome and leg cramps, just to add to the fun, the second trimester and into third trimester. Again, this is something that many women will experience.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. Sorry, Leigh.
I was just going to say,
about
absolutely.
30% of women will.
All right, I'm going to pick one. Leigh, you
Sorry.
go. Who needs to deal with the kids? The other one, go. Leigh, go.
So about 30% of women will experience leg cramps and restless leg syndrome in pregnancy. So it is quite an increase from the normal population. So normally around 5 to 10% will experience those. So it is quite. There's not a massive understanding about why that increases so much in pregnancy. But yeah, we do cover in the book some different strategies around trying to alleviate those as much as possible.
What underpins all this in some ways, and I think this is the beauty of the book, is, and it's so hard, isn't it, when you're sleep deprived? It's the last time you can be logical and tolerant of what's happening to you. But just knowledge and anticipation of things, not being surprised by things, and just a level of acceptance, because a lot of this is about trying to avoid that vicious cycle where the mind's going a million miles an hour and that just exacerbates the problem. And I notice you've got we mentioned the exercise, but as for anyone, just using some basic relaxation techniques, some mindfulness techniques, just trying to slow the busy mind and find a level of acceptance. Would that be fair?
Yeah, I think absolutely. And I think that's a big reason why the study that we did was successful. I think there is just that level of acceptance that, that your sleep may change. It may not, and that's okay as well. But if some changes do happen, it's okay, it's normal. Try some different strategies, try some different ideas. It might work for maybe a trimester, and it might not work the next trimester. But there's some different things that you might be able to try in the following weeks. So I guess that was why we did that trimester to trimester sort of sections in the book. That you can try things as they come up.
Wonderful. Yeah. I'm sure it will be very, very welcomed by many people. Thanks, both of you, for it. Our guests are Clare Ladyman, a PhD student and Associate Professor at the Sleep-Wake Research Centre, Leigh Signal, who has also helped author this book, Sleeping Better in Pregnancy It Is, and it is published by Massey University Press.